How do you deal with a homesick cub? Got any tips? Well, that was a question I've been asked quite a few times, and we're coming up to camping season, and just think, we haven't been camping as scouts for nearly 2 and a bit years because of COVID. So it's all a bit different, both anxious as a scout leader and anxious as a young person. But a scout who is homesick, how do we deal with that? Now, they've woken up 9, 10 o'clock at night, they've come to you, Kayla, I really miss home, I really miss my mum and dad. And they're really upset and they just want to go home. Now, as a scout leader, I don't want to ever send a scout home because they're homesick. There's some reasons, there's some tricks of the trade of keeping that person on camp. But what are those tricks of the trade, you're going to ask me? So here's my tips and tricks on dealing with homesick young person. So, of course, you're going to deal with it in different ways depending on that young person. You know them quite well. You generally know maybe they're hungry, so they need to be fed. Maybe they're just tired. Or maybe they do generally miss their mum and dad. So how do we deal with that? Well, there's a few things that we can do, and quite a lot of them involve telling a white lie. Now, as a scout, we should all be trusted. I know that. But in some circumstances, you have to tell a little bit of a white lie. Now, one of the tricks I've used while dealing with the homesick is just telling them, well, we're quite far away from home, and if mum and dad are going to come here, it's going to take 5 hours to drive here. That will mean they'll come here at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're not going to be very happy. They're not going to be very happy to see you. So let's have a sleep, and then we'll call them in the morning. And generally, that works because the young person is just tired. One thing I actually try and avoid doing is never let them phone home. Once they hear the voice of the parent or the auntie or uncle or whoever's looking after them, that makes the whole situation worse. So I do my very best to tell a white lie and say, look, there's no phone reception. We're in the middle of a field or woods, and I just can't phone them. But I do my very best to try and WhatsApp them or something along those lines, but never let them call that person. Now, I've read that sometimes homesick isn't a homesickness as such. It's a panic attack. Maybe they haven't been camping, or they've had something on their mind and they're over-analyzing it, either at nighttime. They're thinking about it. They can hear the noises. They can hear animals, the wind, and they're just up all night thinking. So maybe it's not homesick. It's just they're having a panic attack. Then they get into that awkward situation. We've done it even at home when you know you've got to get up early in the morning. You just can't sleep. Maybe they're a bit cold. They can hear things outside. They look around the tent. Everyone else is asleep. They're thinking, why am I not being sleepy? I need to go to sleep. Kayla's going to tell me off. I'm going to get up in the morning. I'm going to be tired. And they get themselves into that, again, vicious circle. So if you can get that young person out of their tent, bring them into the mess tent or the hut, and as two leaders, you sit there, you just talk to them and just try and calm them down and be of reassurance. What works well, and think it as an adult, when I can't sleep, sometimes I think, you know what? It's just best to get up and have a cup of tea, or just get up and, not have a cup of tea, but have a warm hot chocolate, warm the stomach up, make them feel a bit nice. Maybe they are just hungry. And just reassure that young person that everything is okay, they're safe. Life is okay. If they're with adults, they're with their friends, they're safe in their tent, and just a bit of reassurance might do the trick. Another tip is keep that young person busy. Give them a job. Don't let them sit down and start thinking. So maybe they're head of chopping the vegetables for the evening meal, or they're in charge of collecting the wood, or they're in charge of getting the campfire ready. They're in charge of making sure that all the sports equipment is ready to go for that game or whatever. Give them a job and keep them busy is another bit of good advice. So this might sound really obvious, but make things all inclusive. Okay, so make sure that when you're doing activities, everyone can take part and everyone will achieve that end goal. So there's nothing worse than, you're doing a sports day race, and like me, you hate running, and you know that in that run you're going to become last. Maybe you've got a base and you're running a paracord bracelet station, and like me, you're rubbish at knots, and these things here get me so frustrated. I can't stand making these, and that makes me have a panic attack. And just think of that as a young person. So they might think, this is a really hard activity, and that keeps them up at night. Why can't I do it? Keep an eye on bullying, all right? We never accept bullying in scouting. Never, ever will we have a bully in my scout group, okay? But this also could play a part in why that person's feeling homesick. It might be a little bit of a white lie that they're telling you that they're missing their mum and dad, Well, what's actually happening is there's a bit of bullying going on in their colony, in their lodge, even their tent patrols, that kind of thing. You don't witness it, but because it's in the tent, you're not seeing it. So they're using that as an excuse. Well, really, they've been bullied at camp. Making sure toilet facilities are up to standard. They're clean. Okay, you're not going to get them sparkling. They're going to be spiders like they are in this shed. And you're desperate for the toilet and you're desperate for a number two. And you squat down, you look up, and up there is a massive spider. And you can't go to the toilet. You're really worried. Or, there's not enough toilet roll. The toilet seats aren't clean. That can play a big part in homesickness with a child. So just making sure basics at camp are kept clean and quite familiar. Now, like you and me, I really suffer with being hangry. All right, so you might have heard that expression. That's when I'm tired and hungry and I turn into a big grizzly bear and everything annoys me because I'm so tired and so angry and so hungry. So just making sure everyone at camp is well fed. All right, so it's been a busy day. You're doing lots of activities. You've done a long hike, come back, make sure there's some food around, there's some snacks, there's lots of fluid, and you don't let anyone go to bed on an empty stomach. All right, so one of the tricks that I learned when I was doing my Nights Away course was always having some bread and having some jam. So when they do get up in the middle of the night and they're just feeling hungry and they come to you and say, okay, I'm really hungry, my got belly rumbling, you can just get some bread, get some jam, and just make them a jam sandwich. A bit like Paddington Bear. What was that, marmalade? Yeah, okay, bread and jam or Nutella and bread, whatever. It isn't the most healthiest thing, but they're at camp. They're not going to get malnutrition over a weekend camp, all right? So just give them a bit of TLC. Another tip is using your patrol leaders. They've been there, they've done that, they've been on camp, they know their little advice. So getting patrol leaders to look after the other scouts or cubs or beavers and just letting them, open up a little bit, give them, the patrol leader, a bit of responsibility. And also some people or some young people won't open up to a leader, but might open up to a fellow scouter. So they might look up to their young leader and just say, actually, just feeling a bit tired or whatever. So try and get the patrol leaders to look after them as well and speak to them. Something I love to do is sitting around the campfire and just discussing how the day went, what went well, what went wrong, what did the young person enjoy, what they didn't enjoy, what would they like to do again, what they're looking forward to at tomorrow's camp. And then the leaders kind of go away and make a bit of hot chocolate or get ready for supper or something and get the patrol leaders to take over that conversation and then get them to open up. Because remember, as scout leaders, we aren't as cool as we want to be, yeah? And the patrol leaders have a little bit more connection with the younger people. So you might get them to open up a bit more and they might tell a bit more to the patrol leaders about what they didn't like or what they're suffering from or what they're thinking about, what their anxieties are about. So get the patrol leaders to carry on that conversation around the campfire. You calm that young person down. They've gone back to bed. They're all okay. But in the morning, check in with them, all right? Make sure they're fun and get them when they're having a great time. Yeah, so it's all well and good speaking to them when they're so low. You as an adult know that when you're feeling low, life is rubbish and you can't see any positivity in life. Yeah, you get what I mean? And that'll be the same as a young person when they're struggling with homesickness. So make sure you speak to that person suffering from homesickness when they're at their highest, when they're having a great time, when they're abseiling or canoeing or on the adventure playground or whatever they're doing. You can see a big smile. Get them to realize that camping is fun, scouting is fun, and install that in their mind. So instead of getting them at their lowest, get them at the highest and say, hey, you having a great day today? See, aren't you glad you didn't go home because you missed out all this fun? That's an awesome tip I learned. But at the end of the day, just remember, as a young person, put yourself in there. Do you remember when you went camping or you stayed over at your friends for the first time or you went to visit your nans at the first time and you had that homesickness feeling deep inside your guts and it was just horrible feeling and the sense of doom
and just life is rubbish.
Bit of TLC. Yeah, sometimes instead of just saying, oh, crack on, get on, step back and remember that we've all been there. We've all felt horrible and we just need a bit of TLC. So you know what? Having a hot chocolate and a little biscuit, a little sneaky biscuit, that always helps. What you don't want to do is get negative thoughts in that person's head is when they go to scout camp, they're going to miss their mom and dad and it's always horrible. just a bit of reassurance. Everything is going to be all right. Positive reassurance goes amazing. You know, even as an adult, I love positive reassurance. When things are going wrong and my wife will tell me, you know, Mark, it's okay. Just around the corner, it's going to be good. It's going to be fine. And even as an adult, that helps. So positive reassurance is a must while helping someone have homesickness at camp. There you go, guys. There's my tips and tricks and a bit of advice. I'm not saying that is the golden rule. That's just how I deal with my homesickness. Maybe it's different with beavers. You know, I'm not a beaver leader. Maybe you might have to give them a teddy bear or, you know, a big warm hoodie or something. I don't know. Maybe sections deal with homesickness in different ways. That's just how I, as my scout leader, how I deal with it. How would you deal with homesickness? Comment below and share the advice for the other scouters who are going to take their young people away from camping and might have to deal with a bit of homesickness. Yeah? Come on, guys. Share the love. It's all about scouting. See you next time here on Big Man in the Woods.